everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. My name is Shola, as you know, and we've got our wonderful guest here with us today. His name is Brady. Hi, Brady. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I want everyone listening right now that if you're here, because I am a dog trainer, what I do is I empower puppies, dogs, and their owners to have more success at home and around town while having fun. And so
Mhm.
if you have a dog already, we're going to go over how to make them listen better. So if that's what you want, you're in the right place. You can smile and nod with us. And if you don't have a dog, we're also going to talk about mindfulness, leadership, elegant leadership, and there's some things that are applicable to all areas of your life. So I think we'll go for what, like 30, 40, maybe an hour, discussing these things and sharing some stories. And I hope I have your permission to share kind of how I got started.
Of course, of course, of course. So, Brady's just told us exactly what he does. So, there's no point me doing any introduction. Brady, I'll leave it to you now then. Can you tell us more about you? Let us know you better.
Yeah, of course. So I like to let people know that I grew up with dogs. They were basically wild animals, though. And the type of training that my family used was a lot of intimidation, a lot of like yelling at them, telling them no, physically moving them around. And that's just kind of what I thought dog training was for a long, long time. And I got my first dog when I was 21 years old. So well, that was like 8 years ago now. Yeah, he'll be nine
Yeah.
this year.
Mhm.
His name is Bumblebee. He's an Australian Shepherd, and I got a dog that matched my lifestyle at the moment, which is important. So I got a very active dog,
Right.
and I thought I was ready for it because I grew up with dogs, but it turns out that I was not as ready as I thought I was. Um,
Ooh.
I know, right? So, and one of the things that I did was I experienced also intimidation and things from my parents, and I watched them do it to my siblings and the dogs, and I was like, that's not the type of way I want my dog to remember me.
Mm.
And I made a point to buy the best treats, the best dog crates, the best toys, the best food, all the best things, right?
Yeah.
And I would let him sleep in my bed, and I would give him lots of treats. And what ended up happening is he just would always just look for the treats, and I was just bribing him a lot of the time. And I remember I my friends, I stopped hanging out with my friends as much because when you get a dog, your life becomes kind of all about this dog.
Right.
And about 6 months in or so, maybe 7 months, they're like, Brady, come hang out. We haven't seen you in forever. And I was like, all right, like I'll come hang out with you for like an hour or two, but then I gotta be back for my puppy, okay? And they're like, okay, just come hang out. And so I gave him like 3 bones. I left him in my room. I gave him like all of his toys. I was just like bribing him. I'm like, please be good.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I'm begging you. This is my only time I'm hung out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I leave to go hang out with my friends. I have a great time. I come home. It's like 11:30 at night, and I open the front door, and this smell hits me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something is wrong. And I go and I open my door, and of course, there's like 4 piles of poop. He loved the bones, and he couldn't hold his bladder, and like he had accidents all over the place. He ate part of the carpet, so that contributed to the mess too. And then I got my dad a Father's Day present that was like in a cardboard box inside of another box, and he like ate through all three of the boxes. And I'm like, are you joking, man? I was gone for like an hour and a half. Like, what the heck? And that was my rock bottom. And I don't know if anyone listening right now has experienced that recently, or maybe they're fingers crossed that it's not hoping, or you're just managing, you never can leave your dog and you just lose your friends in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I was, and that's the moment where I said, this has to change. Like, this must change now because I'm spending money. I lost my deposit. That's $1,000. I was like, I wish I spent that money on dog training. I had to buy my dad a new Father's Day present. I had to go rent a carpet cleaner and go clean the carpet. That was like $200-300 of like work and time and not being able to do things. And so I went out and I found a mentor. Her name is Susan Garrett, and she's a 30 plus time world agility champion. She's done it with 7 or 8 different dogs.
Yeah.
And she's shown that it's not the breed or a specific lucky dog that you have. All dogs are capable of learning. And
Hmm.
all animals are actually capable of learning too. So I've actually taken these skills and I've worked with a nonprofit called Farm Animal Refuge and work with abused and neglected farm animals like cows and potbelly pigs and chickens and goats and turkeys. And I even taught one of the pigs how to paint, and she's raised over $10,000 for this nonprofit selling her paintings. And
Wow.
so, isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. That's why I said, wow.
Yeah. I love it. Cashew, she's on a roll. And you see her when she's painting, it's not like you have to force her to paint. Her tail's wagging the whole time. It's like her favorite thing to do every day. You pull out the canvas and the paint, and she's like, "Oh, I know what we're doing today." And that's how dog training should be too. We should have our dogs that look at us and be like, "Oh, I want to work with you." Like it's not about the treats, it's not about the toys. It's like you and I, we're the consistents in this thing. So now I'm on a mission to share with people how you can have this type of connection with your dog, how it doesn't have to be bribing your dog or intimidating them. It can be working together as a team and having that. So my question for people is this something that you would want in your life? Because it changes your life when you're able to take your dog out to go places and they're able to focus on you and look back at you and ignore the dogs or the people walking by, and you've built this trust with them. It's a very special thing.
Wow. 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 I don't have dogs, but when I grew up with dogs in
Oh, you
my
did?
yeah, because my dad loved dogs anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, always having dogs around us. We had a female and a male, and there will always be puppies all the time. So yeah, I love dogs. I love dogs. And they can be well behaved, to be honest. They can be. They can
Yeah.
be. Yeah, yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
we they can be, and we don't have to be micromanagers because that's the big thing is my parents were always micromanaging and controlling things, and
Ah,
ultimately that's really tiring because when you leave they get to make the decisions all by themselves. So like my dog did, right? So it's like, am I really controlling all that I think I am, or am I just like stressing myself out?
that's
So
true.
now the
That
goal is to give them the skills to be successful.
that's true. That's and they are special beings. They are special beings.
Hmm.
That is great. So how do you well, haven't heard this from you now. How what inspired you, to be honest? I know you've told us a bit of it, but what actually inspired you to start New Direction God Training? Because
Yeah,
we
the ins
told us everything about you, how you love dogs, how you didn't want to be the way other people were with dogs, and you want to train them and stuff. But why did you start New Direction dog training?
yeah, that's a good question. And anyone who has their own business, sometimes you're just kicked into it.
Yeah.
And I've worked for a bunch of different companies. I worked for In and Out and Apple and Tiffany and Co. and Amazon. And I went through a bunch of different companies. And the last one we were at a financial assistance company. And it was 2019. Things were slowing down. It was like seven of us. And I was the last one hired. So they said, Brady, you're the first one fired. I said, okay,
Ooh.
great. And the best part was, uh, the weekend, this I came back on a Monday when this conversation happened. That weekend was my birthday, and they called me in the office, and I was like, "Oh, they're about to wish me happy birthday." Like no one told me happy birthday. They forgot, but I was like, "No, they remembered me." And then they're like, "Brady, this is your last day. You can pack up your stuff." And I was like, "Ooh, okay." Like this is interesting. And Bumblebee was he was about 2 years old at this time, maybe like a year and a half.
Right.
And I had made a lot of progress. So like I had overcome crate training and he's loves his crate and coming when called and walking on leash and we're working through bigger distractions now. And so I'm helping friends and family for free, just kind of for fun with their dogs. And
Okay.
I was like, well, when would now be a good time to start doing this more? So I started charging just like $25 a lesson and just started referring myself out with my friends and family and more people and more people and it just started growing and I was like, man, I love this. This is really great working with the dogs and I love psychology, so I've taken more classes on psychology to communicate more
Mm,
effectively with the dogs, but also the humans because we all know it's us that needs to be trained.
that's true. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, that time that time of the year, for most people, it changed a lot of things. I mean, a lot of people were laid off their job because of what was happening all over the world. But that actually transformed your life, and you started something new.
Yeah, and as it started going, then COVID actually really hit. And then like I had to switch to virtual lessons. I was like, how do I teach dog training like over a Zoom call? And
Mm,
so then I had to get really specific with my words and like talking to people how to play the games. And yeah, that was fun too. But again, we made it work. I got new skills and you either grow or you die. So I'm all about growing.
exactly, exactly. How does mindfulness play a role in effective dog training? How does it play um, a role
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things actually. And mindfulness for me is recognizing a stimulus and
Right.
then a response.
Mm,
And in all of our lives, there's stimulus. Like you asked me a question, and
right.
now there's a
Mm,
gap between when I answer. And for our dogs, there's also a gap, and our goal is to widen that gap. And
right.
so
Right.
if a dog walks by, I want you to see the stimulus and then pause and be like, what do I do in this moment? Oh, I check in with dad.
Right.
And they check in rather than I see a dog, I bark. And there's no gap.
My God, oh my goodness. Yes. You
So
mentioned four types of experience in life and dog training. Can you elaborate on what these are?
yeah, yeah. And we'll dive more into this gap too because it's important. But the four types of experiences I learned from I was on a run, and as I haven't always been a runner. I played sports and I played soccer and baseball, but there's always a purpose for running.
Yes.
And now as I've gotten older, you can't play soccer or baseball as easily. So it's like, okay, what can else can I do? And I'll go run.
Right.
And this is something that as I was on a run, I was like, this sucks. I hate running, right? This does not feel good. Um, but as I'm running, I'm like, okay, but it is good for me. Like I know as I'm moving my body, like my lungs are getting stretched, my legs are getting moved, I'm moving around this lactic acid. That's good. And as I continue to run, like I'm smiling and I'm waving at people. So it's good for other people, which, right? And I'm inspiring people. And then I'm serving the greater good. I'm out, I'm moving my body, I'm being part of like a bigger purpose in life. And I'm meeting one of my goals is to be healthy and vital. And I was like, oh man, but still there has to be more to this. And I was like, what if I were to like actually enjoy this run? If it was to like feel good
Mhm.
and it's good for me and it's good for others and it serves the greater good. I was like,
Yeah.
that'd be wild. But I kept like going down this path. I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. But what about the things that I do a lot? And I was like, the things I do a lot, some of them they feel good, but they're not good for me, like procrastinating. Like
Mhm.
I can put off dog training or I can put off the run and it feels good to not do it, but it's not good for me. It's
Um,
not good for others and it doesn't serve the greater good. And I was like, oh, that's like a whole nother class of life. And like I have a lot of those.
oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my,
Right. So as you're
yeah.
thinking, you can think of like, tell me, what are you saying?
True. That's very true. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So
Right.
you're thinking of things that you do in your life, right? And it could be blaming your dog, right? It
Mhm.
could be procrastinating, it could be whatever it may be, right? We all have our own things. But I
Yeah.
kept playing in the sandbox
Mm,
and maybe you play with me and think, and then I was like, okay, there's got to be another class of life. We've gone over three, and the other thing is
mm,
things that don't feel good,
mhm.
they're not good for me, they're not good for others, and they don't serve the greater good. And I have some of those things in my life too, things that like just don't feel good, they're not good for me, they're not good for others, and they don't serve the greater good. And I was like, man, this thing is kind of important to be aware of these different categories of life because I run into it all the time. There's a cold plunge that I enjoy cold plunging, and yet it doesn't always feel good before, but I know it's good for me.
Mhm.
So then we got to get into like, how do you change these categories of life to things that don't feel good, but making them feel good? And that's a lot of what dog training is.
Ah.
So
Oh.
our dogs, when someone knocks at the door, I
Yeah.
want them to go to their bed and lay down. What they want to do is they want to go jump on the people. To them, that feels good. but it's not good for them. It's not good for others, and it doesn't serve the greater good. Some people don't want the dogs to jump on them. But the thing I want them to do is to go to their bed, which doesn't feel good, but it's good for them, it's good for others, and it serves the greater good,
Ah, I get you.
right?
But the first instinct is dogs, they're there to protect, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
But it depends on like the culture you have at your house. I live in a very safe area. There's very minimal um, opportunities for bad things to happen.
Mhm.
And yet I do encourage my dogs to bark at first, and then I say, okay, thank you for letting me know, like go to your place. And then they're good and they go to their place. So I still allow them to bark because if someone were to try to break in at 3 a.m., I want my dogs to bark, as most people do. But I
Yeah.
also want to be able to say, like, thank you, go to your place,
Right. Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. Oh.
So then
Mm,
our goal, our intention becomes living in do land and being like, okay, how do I make this just the most amazing experience for my dog? And
mm,
running is the same way. So I've conditioned things where like I can run in groups. Now I'm in a community. Running becomes much more fun in that situation. Or I schedule to go have a meal with some friends after. And so like I know if I do the hard thing, then I get to go hang out with my friends and I get better. I get all more. And then I know I can feel good eating too because like I already did the hard work. I'm not like, "Oh, I need to go run today, you
mm,
know?
mm,
So for our dogs, we're doing the same thing. We're associating that as they stay on their bed, then people can come inside and come say hi to them. If they were to get off their bed, then the people go back outside and they don't come inside. And so now there's pain attached to getting off the bed. So now this thing that used to feel good doesn't feel good as more anymore because you're not getting what you want. And when
mm.
you go back to your bed, the people come in. So now I'm changing your association of like, oh, when I'm on my bed, this is kind of the magic sauce to get the people in. And now this thing that didn't feel good, now it feels good because now this is the key to getting what you want in life.
Right, right. So do you associate that with treats when you make them do those things?
Yeah, there's treats, but it's important to remember there's bribes. Sometimes I'll see people like grab like their treats
Yeah,
and then they'll like kind of hold it in front of their dog and like guide them to the bed.
yeah.
I reward dogs for good behavior. So I don't even pull out the treats until like the person comes in the door, right? And now that the dog's already on their bed, they've realized that when they get off the bed, the people leave. And when they get on their bed, the people come in. That's a reward too, but it's not a bribe.
Mhm,
It's like, for example, growing up, when my friends would come and knock on the door, they say, can Brady come play? My
mhm,
mom would look at me. She goes, is your room clean?
mm.
Now, if my answer is yes, I'm good. I can go play. If it's no, sorry,
Then
friends, I can't
play.
play today.
Okay.
There's
Wow,
no bribe. It's just like, did you do what you were supposed to do? There's a prerequisite.
that's true. That is very true. Oh my goodness, that's very true. That's
Yeah. So
mm,
then that's when I bring out the treats. Now with the prerequisite is met, I'll be like, you can go play with your friends, or like, here's a treat, or you can go say hi to the people, or the people are actually going to come to you, give you a treat, and like pet you.
mhm. Oh my
That's
goodness.
like the big kind
Yeah.
of like vision. If you can understand this concept, you
Mhm.
can apply this to all areas of dog training.
All areas of dog. Wow. And you know that actually is applicable to human beings as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like my whole point in sharing too is like I apply all this stuff to my life, like running, jujitsu, cold plunges.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Right. So, can you explain the three leadership or the three types of leadership methods, incentives, the fair, and growth in the context of dog training?
definitely. Yeah, this one's big. And we've been talking about it a lot this whole time, but I'll share kind of the big story that
Mm,
opened my eyes to it because um I set up a trap for my roommate. And what
mm.
ended up happening is the police ended up showing up and my shirt was ripped and I'm no longer friends with my roommate.
Oh no.
And I heard from some of our neighbors at our apartments that we were at that maybe he was hurting my dog when I went for work. And
Oh.
he had his own way of getting results in dog training.
Mm,
And so I decided to pretend like I went to work and I set up a camera and I just watched to see what he did to my dog after I left for work. And when I left, he went out there and he opened the screen door where my dog was on the back patio and he kicked him and then punched him and he poured his water on his head.
Oh,
And it was pretty messed up.
Jesus. Wow.
And this was because my dog was, I don't even know what was, he came to the door and like on the video, you see my dog just like smelling him and like wagging his tail and then he just kicks him and punches him. And so he came back inside and I lost it. Like, I was talking about that like stimulus and response and that gap. There was no gap. I just saw red. And like he just went back inside and started doing the dishes. And I grabbed him and I threw him to the ground and we started wrestling. And uh his girlfriend ran out and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, do you know what this guy is doing? He's like, it makes me so mad reliving this moment. I was like, is he doing anything to you? She's like, no, he's so nice, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm calling the police. Like, this ends now. Like, this is insane. So I called the police and they came and we showed them the video and like you couldn't really hear the audio. And my roommate was like, well, he growled at me. So it was self-defense. And the police were like, well, we can't really do anything about it because he said he growled at him. And there's like, the dog is like in the corner, like cowering on the ground. And you're like, you should get a new roommate. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I should get a new roommate. Uh, but I learned some important lessons that day. And I feel like everything in life has a purpose and we can either focus on the bad and we can focus on the good. Both are in our control.
Very true.
So, um, Ahem. So being a leader is more than just getting results. There's three ways to lead. I've talked about them. We can use intimidation, right? And that will get results in some ways. My dog became a different person when my roommate was around, and I didn't understand it until I saw this, and I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." Like he's always acting like afraid to make a mistake. He's walking on eggshells. I don't know. I lived kind of a childhood like that, where there was a lot of like walking on eggshells at times.
Mm.
And then there's bribes. I talked about how bribing can make you feel good, but
Yeah.
it's not good for the person. It's not good for others, and it doesn't serve the greater good because even though when I bribed, like there was still a mess in my room. And so the final way, the third way is elegant leadership. And this is, as I mentioned before, asking, is your room clean, right? Giving them a choice to make a decision and then rewarding that choice, not bribing it, rewarding it because we all want to be rewarded. Like you
Mm.
and I wouldn't be here if there isn't a reward on the back end for us of just inspiring people, building a legacy, whatever your mission or inspiration of hope may be.
Yeah.
And even for work, we got to get paid. Otherwise, most people wouldn't continue working their jobs.
Mm.
So we want to be able to still have these. So I like to ask people to remember some of the leaders they had in their life and just remember that all three of these methods will get results. And I'm sure all of us have had results with leaders who've intimidated us or bribed us.
Mm.
Most of us probably aren't going back to those leaders for their guidance. We probably just do the thing that needs to be done. We take a reward and then we leave. And the thing about bribes too is you give someone a bonus and then the next time they want a bigger bonus. They want a bigger bonus. They want a bigger bonus. And so it's like it's a slippery slope.
Mm.
Same with intimidation. You got to keep upping the intimidation for people. That was the thing for me when I was 18, when I got bigger, like my mom couldn't intimidate me anymore. So it's like, okay, what do you have to use now? And we want to be elegant leaders. And I'm sure we all can remember the leaders or the teachers in our life that inspired us and they rewarded us when we did the hard thing, when we pushed through those hard moments. And we can see their faces and hear their voice and remember how they made us feel. And so for our dogs, it's really important that when we get in these moments of being furious, because they will happen, there's always problems, that
Okay.
we take a second and we
Yeah.
remember this gap that we talked about. There's a stimulus, the gap, and the response.
Yes.
We ask, like, what is great about this problem?
Mhm.
Right? There's always something that we can find the good for, even if it's sharing a story with others about how to be as leaders and like how we can be. And
Exactly.
remember how you want to be remembered
Mm.
because your dog will remember and the people around you will remember and how you show up is a very important thing and how you dog train changes you.
Mm. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. I know
Yeah.
you you've discussed your experience, you've discussed your dog's experience, but is there any inspirational advice that you like to share with people out there?
Yeah, I love it. My inspirational advice today is life is happening for you. You mentioned dogs are spiritual teachers. I
Mm,
100% believe that. And some people I found they get amazing dogs. Like some dogs are just out the womb amazing. And some of our family dogs they were like that.
wow.
And then some dogs
Mm,
no, they're just causing chaos and ruckus and all these things, right? And this is an opportunity for us to work through these obstacles. And
yeah.
as I've worked through the obstacles with my dog, a
Mhm.
whole business has opened up for me, like a whole legacy has opened up for me.
Wow.
And you may or may not want to own your own dog training business, but again, how you learn to communicate, being aware of body language, understanding sequencing, and how to change things that don't feel good into things that do feel good,
Yeah.
these are all very important skills in life and in leadership. And if you're leading people, and most people are managers of people and they're managers of their lives. And the goal is to build a lifestyle and to build things that are strategic, that you're constantly like looking for the next thing and you're being rewarded for the next thing. Most people don't reward themselves when they
No.
do great things. So remember to raise your hand, pat yourself on the back. You're doing a great job. If you stayed here and you listened to this whole thing, you're props to you. Congratulations. I admire your tenacity and your being receptive to learning and taking this information. And again, life is happening for you. So if you want any more tips and tricks, I got some resources. I can share some videos, as well as you can follow me on social media. That's the best way to get close and connected to me. My name is, can I share it? Yeah.
Sure. It was my next question to you. I wanted to say, how can we connect with you? How can people reach you? And you're already going into that anyway, so go on.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So I'm teaching my littlest puppy, she's one, Curiosity, how to ride a skateboard. And so you follow our journey on social media. The name is N as in new, D as in direction, dog training. So ND dog training. My website is newdirectiondogtraining.com. But give us a follow. Like send me a comment, send me a message. I'm happy to talk about your dog and help you out however I can, or just inspire you to teach your dog some new things.
You're right. Thank you so much, Brady. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm
Yeah.
inspired already. Thank you so much. And all that information about his social media and website will be in the show notes anyway for anyone who would like to contact him. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, it's Shola and Brady on Mission to Inspire. Thank you so much, Brady.
Thank you for having me. I love it. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.